we should have a drink stand and buy drinks with owlers so we could have something besides water. Congressman Cuman. This was passed 4-0. Well, it's a drink stand, and he explained it after it was passed, and then I said, this is how, you know, bills become, in real government bills become 30, 50 pages long, telling the details of how this will happen, and this is just one sentence. But it passed, and then I said, now how are we going to do this? His idea was that Mr. Cropper would have cans of 7-Up, cans of Sprite, cans of Coke, cups of lemonade, different things like this, and at lunch hour you could go buy one for your lunch. And I said the problem with that is it costs money for me to stock it. So what if we did it a different way? I've got some Kool-Aid packets, that's true, that were donated, I didn't buy them. And I said, how about if I give one Kool-Aid packet per day with the Monopoly lemonade stand? So our classroom will now have a drink stand run by someone, and we'll auction it off each day. Who wants to run the drink stand today? And you can charge the price you want. It's $100 per cup. That's the current agreed price. But it's not necessarily in the law. Read the law. So at the drink stand, Daniel might choose to bring drinks with him from home or whatever and sell to the kids. Entrepreneurial, you see, for owlers, which he can then use in the auctions. And the auctions go for a lot of stuff besides just the little boxes of dollar goods. They go for land. The land in the gardens is bought for stock. Owlers, ultimately. So this is just another aspect of letting them sort of run their own economy. The way they wanted it to be was I would stock it, but the way that we ended up through the discussion and me putting in an idea here and there was there will be an owler stand and only one person gets to run it. Other people could conceivably bring a can of Sprite and sell it to someone. The black market's completely legal in this classroom. That's conceivable, but for the stand, which includes a packet of punch every day, blue punch made into punch for the kid. So if they don't bring anything else and they don't buy anything, sometimes we have sodas and stuff available in the auction box. If they don't put anything up for sale, they at least get this pitcher of lemonade, which has 6 or 8 glasses, worth $600 or $800 if you look at it that way. We'll auction that off on a daily basis, and the kids who don't want to take the responsibility and the bother of standing there and pouring the cups for people and taking the money and keeping track of it, the person who doesn't want to do that doesn't have to. It was suggested that we take turns doing it, and I said no, because someone might not want to do it. So if you don't want to take a turn doing it, you don't have to. And if you really, 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 really love doing it, then you can auction, you know, every day in the auction, save your hours and buy the seat for the lemonade stand for lunch. So, beverage stand passed 4-0. They're all in favor of that. Okay, next one by Congressman Brandon. Every year we should start with 100 stock. This was a unique bill because it deals with the future, quite a distant future. 5-6 weeks to the end of the year, then 3 months before the beginning of next year, and they have no doubt of the permanency of this classroom. No doubt. Although a lot of the adults who surround me believe it could implode any day, and you know, the students have no doubt of the permanency of this classroom. Okay, that was passed 4-0. Everyone believes it would be good to start out with 100 stock. We'll see another one. Oh, here it is, this one right. This is the next one, Congressman Brandon Harris. We don't do math for 5 days every year. Now, kids in second grade, pardon me, let him off the hook. He explained to us in his speech on the floor, because Cuman pointed out we don't do math on Fridays. Fridays is no math day. Fridays is the day when we only come to school for 3 hours, right? An hour and a half of history, recess. Hour and a half of something else, literature, whatever. We go home. It's early day. So Cuman pointed out that we have way more than 5 days each year where we don't do math. And Brandon stood up and said, that's not what I mean at all. What I meant was at the start of each year, for the very first week. we don't do any math. He's looking forward. Again, he wrote the other bill where he wants us to all have 100 stock at the beginning of the year. I passed that, and they'll learn that lesson. I wish it weren't so far away. They'll learn the lesson that if everyone has 100 stock, no one has 100 stock, you know. You print a bunch of money and hand it out to everybody, and you all stand here with piles of money, and the prices of everything go up accordingly. Congressman Brandon says we don't do math for 5 days every year. What he meant is the beginning of the year. So once he explained that, that was passed into law 4-0. So for the first week of school, not allowed to teach math. Now, I'm going to pull, I think, a surprise on them and tell them that this was rejected by the Supreme Court of our class, Persephone, who's the presiding judge. After they went home, Persephone reviewed the law, sat down, looked over the books, and decided that it violates the Constitution, which guarantees everyone the right to math, science, history, and literature. And you couldn't illegalize math for the first week because it would violate people's right to math, which is in the Constitution. You can't violate people's right to the 4 subjects that the school teaches. So we might bring that law under further consideration and see what happens. Okay, here's the last law they passed into law. Resolution: if someone is annoying and does it 2 times, okay, so it's not just the first offense, they have to repeat it, and the person says to stop, okay, and they keep doing it, so it's 2 times plus a violation after being informed, fine them $50, okay? And then there was an amendment added during debate on the floor. Cuman motioned to add an amendment to his bill, and there was a second, so we added the amendment. The $50 would be paid to the person who was being annoyed. It adds a monetary motive. Passed 3-1. Now this was a bill written against Garrett because at some point during our thing, Garrett started poking Cuman's shoulder, and Cuman was talking to Brandon very seriously about something. And Cuman says, "Stop it," and Garrett stops. And then he starts poking his shoulder again. And I was watching it, standing right here, just staring at both of them, and Garrett was oblivious. And Cuman said, "Knock it off." And I said, "You know, Garrett, you might consider the fact that a council voted to put Socrates to death, and they could vote to fine you. They could vote to make you pay stock every time you annoy somebody. You know, if one of them wrote a resolution and it passed, and you might be outvoted." Light goes on in Cuman's head. 20 minutes later, we had a resolution on the table. Here it is. Well, it passed 3-1. Garrett gave a fairly impassioned and crestfallen speech in defense of his position, saying this shouldn't pass. He says, "This means that if you're going to annoy someone, you basically have to pay them hours." And he thought that was conclusive. He thought that's ridiculous and unjust. And he sat down with that as his argument. And then Cuman seized upon that and asked for the floor, and I gave it to him. And he said, "This is good because this means if you're going to annoy someone, you have to pay them hours. You have to give them hours if you're going to annoy them." So I guess Garrett looked at it as an obstruction, and Cuman looked at it as justice being delivered. And it was voted on. The motion was carried 3-1. Sad that Caden wasn't here for this. You know, very sad. It's sad for me, probably more than for Caden. He doesn't realize exactly what I missed, and I do. I really hope we can get this under control and have him not keep hurting people for no reason. And like I said, none of the injuries have been serious, but there we are with a serious issue, Caden's suspension, tied in with the beginning of Congress, which to the kids becomes very serious. They love it. Cuman was very angry at Brandon for changing his vote on the Parliament question. I think I might have said it was Garrett who changed his vote. It was Brandon who changed his vote ultimately. Brandon heard Daniel say, "Look, America's the biggest economy and the strongest economy, and we have more population than Britain. So we should name ourselves after the Americans."